Okay, so you've imported your files for this little trailer. So what we're going to do now is we're basically going to just get started in Final Cut Pro. I'm just going to teach you some of the basics. This is one of those programs that you can, bless you. This is one of those programs that you can work in for years and still just keep refining your technique, finding new things. I mean, it's not a really complicated program, but it's got a lot of facets to it. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. There's a lot of ways you can use it. It's a really cool program, and it is top of the line. I mean, this is what you could be using if you were to end up working on a feature film or something like that. I mean, it's definitely something that a lot of the professionals do use. So once you've got your clips and everything in here, we have an audio clip that they've given to us. So we are going to have to use the audio that's given. And that would be what would happen if you were ever actually going to be given footage and said, we need a trailer, we want you to work with a trailer. Usually they'll give you music. Here's the music we want for the trailer, you got to work this together. Maybe not. Maybe they'd say, we need some music, you have to run it by us first, but see what you can figure out. That's possible. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag this music that they want for the trailer. I'm going to bring it down. And this is how you work in Final Cut Pro. You take your files, and you can drag them here to this window, which is the viewer, and you can check them out. You can play them, that sort of thing. So let's just see if it... Okay, so we can hear the music. But I can also just drag it down in here, and this is my timeline. And you can see I've got a little slider down here. I can look at the timeline. I can also change the magnification of the timeline with this little slider here. Okay. So I can see basically the whole thing. I can also grab the ends of the little slider and use those to change the magnification. Okay. Or I can hit Command minus and Command plus to zoom in, okay, so that I can see it. So this looks like, what do we got here? So now if I go to the end of this, and I look at my time counter up here on the canvas, and this is the canvas, and the canvas is my final movie, what I'm making. So right now it's blank. I've got 1 minute and 10 seconds, and I've got all these video clips here. So what you should do really is you've got your music. I like to kind of just listen to it a little bit, so just get an idea of what it's going to sound like. Okay, I kind of hear that sound came in twice there. Okay, so now it starts. So I can hear that I need an intro clip or two, and then the main music really starts. Kind of slow. Not really fast music. No words, no lyrics, which makes it easier. At least I think so in this case. So you can hear it's kind of building. They're adding more and more levels of the music. And now it ends. Okay, so I've got a good sense of what the music is going to look like. What I really need to do is start going through my clips and start figuring out a general order. Now what I like to do personally, especially with something like this, I've got music, it's very finite, it's short, it's got a definite ending and a definite beginning. Okay, the beginning is kind of slow, the music doesn't really start, it's just, got a nice bass line there. And here it starts. So what I can do is I also like to use these things called markers. So I'm going to click on my timeline here and I'm going to hit M on the keyboard. Boom. That gives me a marker. It just kind of tells me that's where the music's about starting to get good. Okay? Now I'm going to go to the end. So right So right there, I hit M again as it was playing. That's about where my end clip is. So now what I want to do is I want to figure out what clips would be best for my beginning shots and my last final shot. Because I'm looking at this, I've got not a lot of time here at the end, but I've got a lot of time at the beginning before the music really starts. So this might be 2 or 3 shots here. This is probably 1 shot at the end. So I'm going to go to the beginning here. Now I'm just going to start looking at my clips. And hopefully you looked at them. There's no sound to them. And of course I've seen these tons of times. So I can just tell you that I noticed all the other clips are water except for these 2 clips. Okay? Now what's interesting is the whole point of the movie is these 2 guys are really good friends, but they have very different personalities. Okay? This might be a really good intro shot, both of these. So let's see what they look like once I start putting them down into the timeline. So the first thing I'm going to do is you can just drag it right out of here, or you can drag it right out of the list here and just bring it down. So the first thing I'm going to see here is it takes up a decent amount of space. Now I can zoom in using this little, so you see this little guy right here? I can zoom in with that. See how the clip looks like it's getting bigger? Whoops, hate that. Okay? It's getting bigger because I'm expanding the timeline here. Okay? So then what I can do is I can bring the Andy one in here. And if I look at them, see they've got times here? The Rasta one, David Rostovich is his name, that's 8 seconds. The Andy one's 5. So the Andy one is a lot shorter. And if I look at it, it starts here about mid-chest and pans up to his face. The Rasta one, we start at his hands and his thighs. So we can probably get rid of a lot of that and start maybe about here. Now there's 2 ways to cut a clip. So I'm going to show you both of them. So let's go back. So we're going to delete the Rasta face one right off of the timeline there. And I'm going to bring the Andy one down. So now I've got that, and that kind of starts there. Now I'm going to double click and bring the Rasta one over here, or you can drag it, doesn't matter. And I'm going to scrub through here, and I'm going to say, you know what, I want to start, say, maybe about here. So what I can do is I can set what we call an in and an out. The in means this is where the clip is going to start whenever I drag it down to the timeline. It's this button right here. So see, it says mark in and mark out. So where I want it to start, approximately, I'm going to click that button. And you see I get a little triangle shape there with a blue line. Okay? Now I'm going to go all the way to the end, and I'll mark my out. And you can adjust these later on, too, so you know it's not set in stone. And now I'm going to drag this down here, and you can see how all of a sudden it moves quite nicely right up to this. But now I've got this gap. And if I take a look at it, let's just play the video. Okay, so that ends a little bit late in my mind. One of the big problems with the trailer is you want to time things. But I can't see where the music ends, can I? Well, you can. What I'm going to do here is this sequence here, see sequence 1? That has all the settings for my sequence that I'm building down here in the timeline. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to go to settings. And then right here under the timeline options, I can click Show Audio Waveform. Check. Oh, look at that. Now I can actually see the sound, which is a strange thing to say, but that's really what I'm doing. So if I go in here, and let's just, we're going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay. So I zoom in here, and I go here, and I listen to it. Watch this. Can you see that like shh sound that's happening there? You can see it right here. Listen to it again. I want this video to end before that, or right around that time. So I'm actually going to move right there. And then you can hear the other thing that happens is it kind of goes do-do-do-do. You hear that? So I want him to end right around that sound. So I'm going to move this forward here, right to about there. Maybe a little bit further. Now, I'm running into a problem here where that playhead is trying to snap to the end of it, and then if I go here, then it snaps to the marker. That's called snapping, which is why I use the word snap. I can turn that off by just pressing this button right here. See, it says snapping, or you can hit the N key on the keyboard. So I'm going to turn snapping off, and that won't do that. So now I'm just going to scrub until I get to that right sound. Right about there. Now I'm going to turn snapping back on and move this clip backwards a little bit until it snaps to where the playhead is. And now I know it's aligned exactly where I want it. But I still have this big gap. So I can do a couple of things. So let's just watch it first, things first. I'm going to scroll out or zoom out a little bit here. I'm going to just see what it's like. I think timing's about right. What I like here is if we zoom in a little bit, that second measure of music, it starts right here. And he kind of comes in. But I want him to come in a little later. I want it to come in right here, where that higher pitched sound kind of shows up, the guitar there. So I'm just going to grab the end of the clip, watch this, and I'm going to do what we call a rolling edit. I'm just going to bring it back and drag it right back. Boom. It snaps to where the playhead is, and now I can fine-tune this. Now the timing's pretty decent. Okay, see what I'm doing? See how this is working? Now, I can do all sorts of other stuff like fade-ins and fade-outs. I'll teach you that later. But what I want you to do right now, keep the idea. I'm thinking a nice fade-in would work really well here, so it fades in from black. I think that would look really good as the music comes in. And the first clip needs to fade out. I'm going to keep that in my mind, but I'm not going to actually put the transitions in yet. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay out all my clips and get the timing right without transitions, without fades or dissolves or cross dissolves, anything like that. And we're just going to get things right. So now that I've got that kind of set up the way I like it, okay, what do you think we should do next? We're going to go to the last clip. So now we need to find our last clip. What clip would probably be the best ending clip of the whole thing? But before we do that, one of the things that I'm noticing here is a difference between these two windows. Notice that this window has gray at the top and the bottom. This window does not. It has black at the top and the bottom. What that means is that we are right now in a standard definition video that is rectangular or square. So it's like an old school television. It's not a true wide screen signal. What this means is that you would see the black bars on the top and the bottom of your movie. And yet our source footage is widescreen footage. So we need to change that. So we're going to go back to our sequence settings here. Sequence, right click, settings. And right here we're going to change the aspect ratio of the video footage to 16:9. Something weird is going to happen. Check. It squishes him. He gets squished. Click OK. He got squished. Now, that's going to happen if you do this later. So really what you want to do is you want to change that before you start laying clips down into the timeline. But if you do, all I have to do is go and double click this clip, and you'll see it comes into the video here. I go to the motion tab, and there's a distort tab here, and you just change the aspect ratio back to 0. Essentially what happened is Final Cut Pro distorted it when we had to throw it into the square video, and we have to undistort it to get it back into the widescreen format. So double click, distort, back to 0. Now the good news is any clips that we put in the timeline after we make that change won't do that. So we don't have to worry about it ever again. I just wanted to show you what happened if you waited. Okay, so now we're good. So let's zoom out here a little bit. We're going to go scroll to the right here, and we're going to get to the end of our clip here. Okay, so I got that kind of fade out in the music there, and I'm just, looking at a lot of this. That might be a good clip. This is a wholly artistic idea. And you can see that clip starts to fade out. It's kind of interesting. The source footage fades a little bit. Oh, that's a retimed. Okay, so that's the same one. One's retimed. That one's cool. Doing a duck dive right under the reef. Boy, look how close the reef is to them. That could be a cool one. It's another duck dive like that. That one's really long. Man, that one's probably not too good for this. Oh, that could be a good one. Because it's the wave, it's the tube of the wave as it goes around. That could be a nice one to end with. And this is an artistic decision. You could end, I think there's two here that I like. I like this curved one here as he comes around, and then he slows down. It slows down. It goes to slow-mo as we go around here. That one's pretty cool. That one could work. But I kind of like this reverse wave because there's not a surfer there. There's another one in here, if I remember correctly, that's from behind. There we go, where you see the surfer. That's a cool shot. But this one without anybody in it, that could be a really great shot at the end. Kind of say it's the end of the day, they've gone home, here's our wave. So let me drop this in and just kind of see how that works a little bit here. So it's a little early, so I'm going to bring it forward a little bit. And again, this is where the snapping can get annoying because it's snapping to everything. So I'm going to unsnap that, bring this here, and then that's that little shh sound again that's in there. It's right there. Starts there. So now I'll snap, turn snapping on, and I bring the clip forward, and let's just see how that sounds with the music. Yeah, I like that. All right. So now I've got my beginning, and I've got my ending. And now I need to fill in everything in between. And I can just start throwing clips in here, reorganizing them, putting them around, cutting them. So, I've got this wide curve. This guy's 17 seconds long. I drop him in here. He takes almost a quarter of the entire trailer. I can drop him in. I can shorten him. I can use half the clip now and half the clip later. It doesn't matter. There's really no rules here, except I would say it would be bad form to use the same exact shot twice. If you use the beginning of a shot once and then the end of a shot later, that's one thing. But you don't want to use the same shot twice. That would probably be kind of chintzy, especially in the course of 1 minute. Because people are going to remember that you used the same shot twice, right? If they see it, I think that'll be pretty obvious. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we're just going to be taking care of this. We're going to be editing. You're going to get used to Final Cut Pro a little bit. I think this is important because as you start filming this weekend, your first project, it's good for you to have some knowledge of the editing software so that you have a better sense of what it takes to edit, what you need to fill the space, because I think you'll shoot better that way as well. Okay? So we're kind of working on 2 projects at one time. You're just going to get a basic completion grade for this editing, so we may even go into this next week. Probably a few days, so I might push the footage for your first assignment might not be due until Wednesday now that I'm looking at this, but I think that this is a valuable thing for us to do. Any questions? Yes?
Can we take cameras?
Yeah, you can be taking cameras now if you want. Yep, I'll have them ready tonight.